Hello and welcome to Pest Perspectives episode 73. Sorry, messed it up. Right. The Pest Perspectives is sponsored by Powers Now, a job management software program. Just helps us fund the show, buys new cameras, pays for this software, things like that. So if you want to check it out, there will be a link in the description after. But this week on episode number 73, I have a very interesting guest from New Zealand where they've got a very interesting project, and I've had a lot of people message me saying they're really looking forward to this one. So I have on Emma Wow from Predator Free Wellington in New Zealand. You're our first guest from New Zealand. You are.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Shaun.
Right, no, thanks for coming on. Thanks for going into work early as well. You're good to go into
No
work early.
problem.
What time is it there?
It's just past 7 a.m. here this morning.
7 a.m. It's 8 o'clock
nice and
here.
early. Oh, cool.
So, hello, Jackie. So, do you want to briefly kind of, if people haven't heard of Predator Free Wellington, could you give a brief summary of what it is? Because it's very interesting. Really is.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, so we're based in Wellington City, which is the capital of New Zealand. So we're just down the bottom of the North Island of New Zealand there. And it's an urban project. And I guess as a bit of background, so the New Zealand government back in 2016 set a target to get rid of a bunch of introduced predators from the whole country is the goal. So that includes 3 species of rats, weasels, stoats, ferrets, brush-tailed possums, and they've recently added feral cats and mice into that list as well. So it's quite a ambitious goal, but the reason that they've set that goal is that nationally we don't actually have any native mammals other than 2 species of bats. So our native wildlife has been pretty devastated by the human introduction of these pests, and so we've had a lot of birds go extinct. About 30% of our birds went extinct after they were introduced to the country. And so nationally we're basically trying to protect all of our native species. There's about 4,000 threatened species in the country, and so by controlling and removing these predators, that will allow them to thrive and hopefully recover. So to kind of achieve this goal, there's obviously one of the challenges is how do we do this in cities or places where people live, like Wellington. And so we're sort of one of several prototype projects that is sort of trying to work out a methodology for how we get rid of rats, mustelids, and possums from places where people live. And we were set up back in sort of 2019. We kicked off in the Miramar Peninsula, which is sort of the eastern part of Wellington City, and we've got a five-phase project working across the city from east to west, and the goal is just to progressively work our way through all these different suburbs and neighbourhoods and get rid of these introduced predators. We're in phase 2 at the moment. So phase 1 is basically complete, and we're into phase 2 now and just working our way across the city. So it's a huge sort of community driven project. We're a not-for-profit organisation supported by council and government and some other foundations. So that's where we're at the moment.
I mean, I'll be honest, people, if you want to go and read the blueprint, I mean, this is like a military operation. I don't mean it that way, just the amount of information and different systems you've got in place to do it. It's not a final document, it's an ongoing document that changes according to data. But it's very well detailed. If you want to see, you can just Google Predator Free Wellington free blueprint.
That's the one.
And you're very well detailed. It is. So there's a brief overview of the project. So I'll get to some questions. Cool. There we go. Right. Here we go. Was there a specific moment or experience that made you realise you wanted to dedicate your career to conservation?
I always sort of loved wildlife and nature as a kid. I loved animals and knew I sort of wanted to do something to work with them or help them. But As a kid, I wasn't really sure what that would look like. And then probably as a teenager, I started sort of researching what careers were available and learned about conservation and ecology, and that, you could actually make a career out of learning about animals and protecting ecosystems. And yeah, I found that really exciting and really inspiring, something where you could sort of make a difference. So yeah, went to university and studied that, and then kind of got stuck in, and I've been doing that ever since. So yeah, it's been really rewarding. I really enjoy it.
Very nice. Did you have any, before this project came along, did you have any interesting roles you did before this particular role that you could mention, or anything like that?
Yes, I worked. My kind of first job when I was studying was as a sort of like an education ranger, working with kids at Zealandia Eco Sanctuary, which is a predator free fenced sanctuary in Wellington, where there's a lot of native wildlife. And so we'd sort of bring kids in and talk to them about our native species and how we look after them and protect them. And then after that, I worked for the New Zealand Department of Conservation, which manages all of the conservation land across the country. And I really loved that. I got to work on some offshore predator-free islands, and you sort of got to see the real impact of removing these mammalian predators and what that has on the wildlife, and it was just incredible. So yeah, that was probably my favorite thing I've done so far. And then
That's nice, that is.
yeah, I've been with Predator Free Wellington for the last 7 and a bit years now, which has flown by. So yeah, that's the journey so far.
No, it is interesting, because obviously it's well, because obviously these projects you have to, you're quite official in with the government and everything. You are, it's like proper official. So it's
Yeah,
nice.
it definitely helps.
It does, because obviously if you've got no birds, we've got birds everywhere. Pigeons. Do you have pigeons there? No, you got pigeons.
Yeah, we've got a native wood pigeon called the kiridu, which is beautiful big bird. Yeah.
God, they're everywhere here. Tell you. On houses, you've got solar panels.
Yeah.
You can put them on. Well, generally, if you don't proof them up around the solar panels, they'll make homes under them.
Oh, no way.
It's very known. That's what they do here in the UK.
Oh dear, we don't have that problem yet.
No, but it's very rare. You don't get that. But yeah, we've got a lot of pigeons. A lot of people call them flying rats in this country.
Oh dear. We do have rock pigeons in the city, which are not native, but yeah, we've got a few of those around too.
That's interesting, that is. Right, let's just go on to the next. I'm actually putting the questions on the screen this time. Being official. Cool. I am. Right. Working in predator control can be tough. How do you handle the emotional side of lethal control while still maintaining a love of nature? Because obviously it is death at the end of the day, and you use a lot of traps. So you and your team are going to have to physically remove the dead animals from them. And obviously there's a greater goal of clearing them, but there is that emotional connection where, they are vermin, they've got to go. But yeah, it's kind of,
yeah, it definitely has its tough moments. I think I never really liked the idea of killing things, and I've got a huge amount of respect for the animals that we unfortunately have to remove. But I think for me, it's just reminding myself why I'm doing it, and yeah, kind of having this purpose where you're helping all of our native species recover and survive. And unfortunately, the two just can't coexist. These predators will just decimate them. So by removing them, we're helping these other species, which is kind of, it makes it feel worthwhile. I think also seeing that the benefits are really tangible. So as soon as we remove the predators, we see the bird numbers just skyrocket. I think in the area that we've been working the longest, native bird detections have gone up by like 136% or something like that.
Really good,
and some species it's over 500%. So you kind of, I think the community and us, when we're out working, will see, a noticeable difference from what we're doing. So that's kind of a nice trade-off, I suppose. It's sort of not unpleasant. It is unpleasant, and it can be tough some days, but you have this kind of nice feedback reward, which sort of makes it feel worth it, which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, obviously I don't know what it's like because I didn't realise to try to bring up the extent of the issue. But yeah, I don't think they're really wiping out birds here. They're not, rats saying. But yeah, that's on a big scale though that's happening in New Zealand. But it must be rewarding to see the birds returning, nature returning as such properly.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So obviously, I'm not going to put this one on screen because I can't find it in a minute. But I do remember that I did send you this one. How do you convince all the people to let us put traps down and bait boxes and poisons in their gardens, etc.? How do you convince people? That must be quite difficult.
Yeah, it's a massive ask because we basically go door to door and talk to residents and basically say, we've got these traps and these bait stations. We want to remove the predators. Is it okay if we put one in your garden and we come and visit? It might be every week for several months until we've got rid of all of the rats in particular. And these are their private spaces, their properties, and it is a lot to ask. But I think for us, it's sort of we're building on decades of conservation work in Wellington that came before us. So there's a huge amount of awareness about the predator free movement within Wellington. Things like that Zealandia sanctuary that I mentioned where I used to work, that's been kind of reintroducing native species to Wellington for decades now, and so people are seeing things like we've got an endangered parrot called a kaka, and they're kind of all over Wellington now, which is amazing. And that's so nice. People sort of see them and they want to protect them, and so luckily we're kind of working off the back of projects like that have been doing conservation stuff in Wellington for a really long time. But also I think it's just we'll sort of go door to door and have one-on-one conversations with each property, and we'll sort of chat to them and say, what are your concerns or questions, and what considerations do you have for your property? Are there any hazards, or have you got pets or kids or whatever? And we'll just sort of work with them and have a bit of a back and forth, and also look at the benefits for them. Like I think for different people there's different reasons they want to be involved, and for some it's bringing back the native wildlife, but for other people it's because I don't know, I had chats with people who the rat had chewed through the hot water cylinder pipe and flooded their house, and they had tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage where they had to rebuild their whole kitchen and things like that. So there's multiple reasons that people want to be involved, but thankfully it actually hasn't taken a whole heap of convincing from us. I think people are already behind it, which is great.
That's nice. Is there a minority of people who don't want you to do anything and they love everything? Is there a minority that won't let you in the gardens? Is there like a tiny...
Yeah, there's a small couple of maybe percentage of people that don't want us to come on the property, which is totally fair enough, and that might be for a bunch of different reasons. It might be privacy, or the access is restricted for whatever reason, security, all sorts of things, and that's okay. We kind of fully respect that. It's a lot to ask of people, and luckily with the kind of device network we have, if we don't have every single property, generally we can manage by just having things on the neighboring properties, for example.
Yeah, because they run through gardens, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So as long as we've got a device every sort of, 50 meters or so, generally we can get the coverage that we need to get rid of the rats. So
do you just put loads of this might be a thing, it's a bit of a joke over here in this country when we get rat issues in the gardens, people use bird feeders in general to feed the birds. Well, when they get a rat issue, do you just chuck in loads of bird feeders to attract them? It's a joke. but because I've had jobs where like I said, you do know you caused the problem, don't you? And they're like, yeah, it's the bird feeders, isn't it? I said, yeah, it is. I said,
I mean that's definitely one of the urban challenges that we've got to work with is alternative.
But you need to use bird feeders for your wildlife, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, luckily for us, sort of the native wildlife will do pretty well on its own once we remove the predators. A lot of them are nectar feeders, or they'll feed on the fruits of the native trees and that sort of thing. So we're not really needing to supplementary feed. They can sort of do their own thing. I think people that do the traditional bird feeder thing with bird seed, it tends to attract more of the introduced bird species, a lot of UK bird species.
Pigeons.
We've
Pigeons would be
got
there.
finches and sparrows and rock pigeons as well. So but luckily the native wildlife, once you remove the predators, as long as they've got some native plant species, they do pretty well on their own. But yeah, definitely the alternative food source thing is a challenge. And sometimes we'll have to chat to the residents and say, look, do you mind holding off feeding the birds just for a few weeks while we kind of get the rat numbers under control? Because it is, I guess they're not going to need to go and eat our bait or the lure from our traps if they've got heaps of other food from a bird feeder. So it's definitely one of the things we've got to work with in the urban space.
That's definitely true, because I imagine a lot of it is, I've got free pest control. That's the biggest one.
Totally. Yeah. As soon as we say it's free, a lot of people are like, right, where do I sign? They're on board, which is great, because there are a lot of people paying for this service, through other organizations like Rent-A-Kill and stuff. So
here's a question. I don't know whether you can answer it or not. How do the pest control companies feel about this project? Because obviously it's free. How do they feel? You don't have to mention any names. How do they feel about it? Obviously, do you know? Have they moved do different pest species? Because you'd have to. Wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah, I think I'm not sure. I won't speak for them in terms of how they feel about us, but I know that they've definitely still got their work cut out with, because we don't control, or we're not removing mice as our target species. We've just got rats and mustelids and possums. So there is still mice about, which will definitely keep them busy, I'm sure. And then they've got the insect pests and other things that they target. So hopefully there's still enough room in the market for both of us to
work. I just thought I'd ask, because a lot of people would want me to ask that, because a lot of people did ask her. So okay, I will.
No, I think there's still, it seems like there's plenty out there to keep them busy too. And we've actually had comms with them where they might let us know if they've detected a rat in someone's bait station in an area that we've thought maybe was rat free, and so then we can go and respond. So we have had some comms back and forth with them, which is really helpful.
That's good to hear. So obviously with the residents side, what's the most surprising thing you've learned about the Wellington residents since you started working on their doorsteps?
Good question. I think probably the main thing for me is just how dedicated they are to this mission and how supportive they've been. As I said before, it's a lot to ask to be coming on their properties every week, but people seem to really want this thing, and to the point where they'll go out on their weekends and volunteer their time to help out. So we've got, I think across Wellington there's about 2,000 and something volunteers out there that will just, they'll go out on their Saturday and they'll check a line of traps, or they might have a couple in their backyard that they check once a week, and they'll report to us or to their community group what they're catching. And so it's actually kind of a whole region-wide effort where people are putting in their own time to help. And we've got some amazing volunteers in our predator free areas too, and they'll go out and check our trail cameras, and then they'll process all the images themselves and tell us if they've detected anything of concern. So it's been really amazing, I think, just to see how it's brought the whole community together with this mission, and how willing people are to give up their time to help. It's really cool.
That's nice. It really is. It's a massive project, though. It really is. It's I think it's great. It does. There's still more questions to come, but I think it's quite fascinating from because it is pest control, but it's a logical and everything. It's the whole package. It is.
It's a good challenge.
My daughter's just getting a bit of paper there. She is. So with here's one for you. If you could see one extinct or rare bird species return to your own backyard in Wellington, which one would it be?
I mean, any of the extinct species I'd love to have back. But in terms of one that I think is actually achievable for Wellington, my favorite bird is a forest songbird called the kokako. And it's this sort of beautiful grey bird that sort of lives in the forests, and it's got this sort of haunting organ-like song, which is really beautiful. And yeah, they've been gone from Wellington for, I don't know, probably over 100 years or so.
Wow, that would be cool then, wouldn't it? That would be.
I'd love to have those in my backyard. That would be pretty amazing.
I don't even know how you could do something like that. Even if you've wiped out, you'd have to find some, wouldn't you, to start with?
Yeah.
You would. I don't. Where else they live? Do you know?
There's a lot of them. There are some populations still around the country, but they're generally, I think they'll only survive where there's predator control happening. So they're really vulnerable to possum and rat predation. And so they basically live on offshore islands that are free of predators, or there's a few sort of mainland reserves where they're hanging in there. And I think the numbers overall are increasing, but they're still threatened. So but once Wellington's fully predator free, I can't see why they wouldn't thrive here as well. So another conservation thing here, I suppose, is that we've got pretty good at translocating species and moving them around. So once the kind of habitat becomes suitable again, we can take, a group of individuals from somewhere else where they're doing pretty well and move them here and reintroduce them, and then hopefully they'll take off here as well. But that's something that I think is actually hopefully pretty feasible in the not too distant future.
Hopefully that happens. Hello, Darren on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching, mate, as always. Right. Also, Wellington is becoming the world's first predator-free capital. What makes the urban environments harder or easier to clear than an offshore island?
I think probably in some ways it's harder, in some ways it's easier. I think the stuff that makes it easier is probably how accessible everything is. Like a lot of the there's projects that are similar to us, but they're in the sort of backcountry, in the mountains, or in the forests, where you've got to get in a helicopter to go and check your traps, or you've got to be a day's walk away or somewhere really remote. Whereas for us, basically every site we go to, we can drive or walk to really easily, which means we can check things really frequently, and that makes life a lot easier. Probably also having all these eyes and ears on lookout. So we've got, tens of thousands of people who are keeping an eye out for these predators. And if we've got an area that's predator free and they spot something, they'll let us know. So we've got probably, I don't know, I'd say several public reports of sightings that come in every week, and we'll go and investigate them. We've got on our team, we've got a detection dog handler and 2 rat detection dogs. And so
nice.
People reckon, that's really cool. And so people reckon they've seen a rat, will send the dog squad in, and they'll go and check it out and see if they can determine if maybe it is a rat and it's snuck in on a car or something like that, or whether it's was just a mouse or something like that. So that's really cool.
Is that just for detection only, or do they actually the rats, the dogs?
Just for detection, yeah. So they'll sort of tell us where the rats are going, where they're moving. They might be able to identify the den for us, and then that just helps us go in and sort of target the right spot. So it works pretty well. Definitely having everyone on lookout helps.
That's good. Do you use any digital boxes for areas you can't get to easily, like connected to the internet? So digital technology boxes. Do you use anything like that at all?
We have tried a few of those tools, but luckily pretty much everywhere is accessible for us. So
that's good then.
I think they're used a lot more by the kind of more remote projects where they have got to travel a long way, whereas for us it sort of actually works out cheaper and easier just to use the traditional traps and bait stations for the most part. But we have got a few of the we've tried some of the sensor nodes that you can put on a trap, and it will ping you a notification if the trap's been triggered, and then you can go and reset it. And we've tried a few different self-reporting sort of things, trail cameras that will send you a notification if they pick something up. But for the most part, those tools are generally more expensive. So we're pretty selective, about where we put them, and just pick the places that are really hard to get to, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, you will do if you've got everything that's accessible.
It's like, definitely
I've trialed it before and done a trial on digital, and I wasn't that overly impressed, but it's all about the client if they're willing to pay it.
Exactly. We've sort of had mixed success, but it's definitely, I think, got its purpose in the right situation. But for us, we're generally just the old-fashioned stuff, eh?
Oh no,
yeah,
that's what works. It's good old pest control.
exactly.
It's management. Sorry, it sounds better. It does.
And then the stuff that makes it harder, I'd say, as we talked about before, the alternative food sources, so things like compost bins, or even people dumping rubbish. Sometimes that creates a lot of distraction in other food sources, which mean the rats don't go for our devices, which can be tricky. And then another big one for us is some of the urban hazards that you encounter. So particularly pet dogs, because obviously a lot of people have dogs on their property and they'll be really defensive. And so, someone coming into their yard might get them, a bit aggressive. So we've got to be really careful how we manage that with the residents to keep everybody safe. So that's been a challenge, but one that we can overcome, which is good.
Oh, that's good to hear. So I read in the blueprint, you use traps. Now I want to ask you a question. Do you think, I know the answer, but I think I know the answer. Can traps solve the problem completely? No bait needed.
I think as far as all the research here is showing, traps on their own won't fully eliminate or eradicate these species. Yeah. So we use bait or toxin as our sort of primary tool, and the traps to sort of supplement that. And the traps are good because they'll occasionally get maybe rats that are bait shy for whatever reason, or it might just happen to be that rat interacted with the trap before it did the bait station, and that's great. It also gives us information, so we look at every single animal that we catch, and we'll sort of take a DNA sample, and we'll look at is it a male or female, is it a juvenile or an adult, has it been breeding recently, and all of these things help us build up a picture of kind of what we're dealing with locally in that area. So it's really highly detailed. We'll look at sort of stomach contents and all that sort of thing. So so traps have got their place as well. It kind of gives us a bit more information about the animals.
Do you use them in conjunction? Do you use them at the same time, or is it like? Does it depend on the situation? Do you use, say you've got traps in a box, but do you also put bait in the same box, or no?
We've got separate boxes. So we've got bait stations with toxin in, and then we've got traps separately. And generally we'll start with the baiting for at least a few weeks and just let that do its thing and knock down most of the population, and then we'll kind of bring the traps in a little bit afterwards. We might also pre-feed them. So for things like stoats and weasels, we'll sort of get them using the trap and coming and going comfortably with food available, and then we'll set the trap after a few weeks, and then be more likely to catch them that way. So they just kind of complement each other within the network.
No, it's a big. They always bring up in pest control about the future is trapping, but bait. I just think that in a world where if you were to ever get rid of bait, I think we'll be in a world of hurt as pest controllers, because there's bait shyness. Sorry, trap shyness. There's also bait shyness. You need all the tools in your arsenal if you've got them. Are glue balls allowed in New Zealand, or are they banned?
Glue balls, is that with the sticky stuff that they'll will sort of trap them? No, we don't use anything like that here. Thankfully, we haven't needed to. I think you can buy them and stuff, but they're not something that we've used at all.
I just thought, because recently we had it. I wouldn't say kind of. I've never really used them, but we had it. The law changed where they made it so you had to have a license. So everyone said it's a technical ban, basically, because not many people are applying for licenses. It's just not worth the while. It's not. So I just wondered if it had been outlawed. I think it's illegal. Obviously, you're in New Zealand. I think it's banned in Australia outright.
Right. It may well be banned here. I'm actually not sure. It's just not something we've really looked into. Yeah.
It is a little bit on your scale. It would be a bit. It'd be a bit. Yeah.
Imagine it'd be tricky because you'd have to keep checking them really regularly, I'm guessing.
Very regular, you would. I just thought I'd ask because I didn't know if it was. I never seen it in the blueprint, you say.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd ask because it's something that a lot of countries are getting rid of. Because it basically here it was saying that it was more about the non-targets, obviously getting on them, because a lot of people we're misusing them. But unfortunately, the public can still get their hands on them. They can.
Right.
But
Yeah,
we get in trouble if we were to use them. But it's not worth it unless you're doing it under license. It's not worth it, in my opinion. But
we'd be worried about non-targets too, things like native lizards and that sort of thing. I imagine would probably find their way into them. And I think for our tools, we want to try and, it's obviously unfortunate that we've got to remove these animals, but we want to keep things as humane as we can and minimize any kind of suffering. So,
definitely. So sorry, carry on.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
You said you mentioned you had stoats. What kind of traps do you use? Do you use fens?
So we've got fins here, but they're not something in our project we've used much. We're mostly using a series of traps called the DOC 200.
The DOC, okay.
Yeah, so I think they were developed here in New Zealand, and they're like a stainless steel trap mechanism with quite a grunty. They've got a bit of power behind them, basically. So they're a spring operated. What's the word? Sort of single operation trap. So the animal basically runs across a treadle plate and it slams shut. But they're really powerful, and they've been humane tested and they're certified for stoats and weasels and rats. So that's the main thing we use. So we'll have sort of these wooden boxes with metal mesh at the ends, and then a trap
baffles
in the middle. Baffles, and a trap in the middle. And they've been good for mustelids, so that's sort of our main tool that we use.
Oh, nice. I mean, we've got the DOCs here. I've never used one. I just wonder what.
Okay, cool.
I wonder what you use, because I know that there was a thing about Mark IV fens that someone's untested and they weren't strong enough for stoats to kill him instantly. They were, but they are for rats.
Gotcha.
And squirrels. I just wonder, but they do say that the DOC is the best one to use from all the people I've spoke to, because I've got friends who love trapping. Like they love it. They use bait when they have to, but they really like, if there's a new trap coming out that's legal, they'll give it a go.
Nice.
They love it. They do. Because one of my friends, Sam, was very interested in it. He was the one that first mentioned it to me. He was.
Yeah, cool.
Predator Free 2050. I was like, what's that? You need to look at it. It's amazing. He said.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. No, the DOC traps are really good. We like them.
That's good to hear. Like, is it work? They're working anyway. It is.
Yeah, it seems to be doing the job.
But it saves your fingers more, because them fen traps, when you're setting them, you can catch your fingers sometimes. You can.
Yeah, they're not the easiest. Even the DOC traps, I think it took me a little while to get the knack of how to set them. They're pretty straightforward, but because they've got a bit of power to them, you've got to make sure to have all your fingers in the right place, so that if you accidentally trigger it, you don't do any damage. But after you've set a few, you get the knack pretty quick.
That's good then. That is. Where are we? So here we go. So beyond just killing rats, how does this project change the social fabric or community connection of a suburb?
Yeah, that's something we're kind of just starting to research a bit more. We did commission some research that found that the rates of anxiety and depression and stress were lower in people that were involved in doing the predator control in Wellington, which is really cool. And nice. I think they found that it also increased social cohesion, which was nice. But there's been a lot of cool groups and friendships to come out of doing this stuff. We've got groups of volunteers that will meet up on a Sunday morning, and they'll go out together, and they might do some monitoring or some trapping together. And it's been a lot of cool connections that have formed out of it, which has been nice to see. And there's even for people that don't necessarily want to get out there, there's Facebook groups and social media groups where people will be sharing. It used to be sharing photos of the rats and things they were catching, but now it's more sharing photo and video of the wildlife coming back, and they're sort of documenting, I just saw my first kakariki or parakeet in my backyard, and I've never seen one of those before. And just kind of sharing the excitement of watching all this wildlife return. So it's been a really cool, positive social thing, I think.
That's really nice. I imagine that obviously it obviously what you were saying there. It's helping some people's mental health, getting out and doing something for their community, and along with making new friends. It's a good thing, that is. So also,
Yeah,
I'd
it seems to
imagine that
be.
because obviously there's a lot of people that are petrified of rats, and
Yeah,
knowing
true.
that you're wiping them out is really helping them.
Yeah, there's definitely a few people out there that have been very relieved that they won't have to
Yeah.
deal with them for much longer, which is really cool.
No, that's good to hear. So, right, here's one. Right. What age do you get Wellington children involved? Is there any education programs, or maybe even a song you get them to learn? You know, is that a kind of thing you do or not?
Yeah, we haven't got a song. It's a good idea though. Maybe we should make one. But we've got a team of 3 full-time community outreach staff, and a big part of their work is outreach with the community and with schools and that sort of thing. So they'll start even visiting, preschools and daycares, that sort of age.
Okay.
And they'll go to the school and do a visit and kind of work alongside the teachers and the students based on their knowledge. But I think we're pretty lucky here that the within the sort of curriculum, schools are actually already teaching kids a lot about our native species and about the introduced predator problem and why it's important. And so often they already know quite a bit when we get there, which is great. So we're just sort of building on that, and we might take them out and put out some. Do you use tracking tunnels much over there, like the ink pads, and the animals will walk through? Yeah, so it'll be like a ink pad with a bit of lure in the middle, might be peanut butter or something like that, and then some white cardboard either side, and it will be enclosed in a tunnel. And so you put them out overnight, and the animal will basically walk through the tunnel, walk through the ink pad, and then leave its footprints on the way out. And based on the footprints, you can see what's been coming and going, which for kids is great fun because they sort of get all excited to see what they're going to get.
Not entirely sure, but you could do that quite easily.
Yeah, you can make your own with like a sponge and some ink.
There might be someone after the fact. If I'm wrong, people give me a message, and I'll send you an email to say I was wrong. But I've never used anything like that.
You can definitely make your own.
Yeah,
they're quite good fun. But yeah, we'll do that sort of thing with kids where we'll put out monitoring, and they'll collect them in, and we can help them identify the footprints and see what's been living in their backyard or in their school grounds. And it might be that they've got rats or mice around, or it might be that they've got some native geckos or which is native insects and invertebrates and that sort of thing, which is what we want to see. So lots of fun stuff just to sort of get them engaged and interested. And a lot of the schools here have also got their own trapping groups, so the students might go out on their lunch break with one of the teachers and check the traps. And a lot of them get quite enthusiastic about it, which is that's very cool.
Yeah, because obviously, generally, kids not obviously from Wellington, because it sounds like they're used to it. Whereas kids in our country, it's like when my daughter says, "What do you do with the squirrels?" I'm like, "I look after them." I can't bring myself to say, because in this country we have to kill them. The grey squirrel has to, because it's non-native. We have to kill them. But at one point, she I think she knows, because it's a hard one. How do you say it? To a little
It is
kid,
a really hard thing. Yeah, I think that's that building the whole picture for them and teaching them. We still want to be compassionate for these species and feel empathy for them and make sure that they don't suffer, but at the same time just teaching them the reasons behind why we need to do it. And I think most of them seem to understand and get it, especially when they see all these native birds in their backyards. And I think they seem to understand it for the most part. But it's just making sure we sort of pitch that message right so that they do understand why we're doing it, and that we're not just sort of aimlessly killing things for the sake of it, that there's real purpose and worth behind it.
Oh, you're definitely making sure that with this big blue, it's proper. It's the most documented. Yeah, it's a good. You need to read it, people. I will link that in the description after. So if you want to go and read it, and people can, because it is very interesting.
Yeah, we'll keep updating it every now and then. I think our methodology is changing every few months as we learn more and more. So it's kind of it's never static for long. But yeah, that document's kind of got basically our current knowledge of what we've learned and how we do it.
Oh, that's good to hear. So this question will come up, but we have covered it. So I'm going to ask you it a different way.
Yep.
So you ever get a really hard job where you basically to find the final 1% of the predators where you struggle? What do you do when your traditional methods don't work? Have you got any other methods, or do you just keep persisting?
I think for those last few really difficult animals, it's been about variety in devices, and if our first tools haven't worked, trying something different. I think we're for the most cautious or neophobic. Rats are generally the hardest ones for us, and we've found things like the architecture of the device makes a big difference. So there seem to be some rats that just don't want to go inside a box, and so having a trap in a box or bait in a box or whatever just doesn't work for them. And so we've got to obviously really carefully with keeping everybody else, all our non-targets, safe, but use devices that are a little bit more open architecture and just place them in amongst the vegetation. And maybe we'll use the detection dogs to tell us exactly where that device should be put. And it gets sort of very detailed and targeted for those last few rats that are really hard to catch. So it's not necessarily, the really flash new expensive technology. It's more kind of stripping it back to basics and just having the best bait and the best traps in a format that's going to be less intimidating for them. And we also use trail cameras are a big one. So just your standard kind of trail camera. It doesn't necessarily have AI or anything fancy built in, but those are really good at telling us perhaps we've got like a rat that's not interacting with any of our devices, so we wouldn't know it was there if not for the trail camera telling us that there's still one hanging about. And so then we can kind of use that information to target it. And we also use motor lures, which are like an automatic lure pump, basically developed by an organization called Zero Invasive Predators, or ZIP for short. And it's like a big tower, metal tower, and inside it's got a big syringe filled with egg mayonnaise and then a little motor in the top. And once a day the motor turns and it pushes the syringe down a little bit, and a bit of mayonnaise comes out the bottom. And it basically means that we can put these things out for months at a time, and there's always a fresh lure every day. And we'll put one of them kind of in view of our trail cameras, and it just lures the animals in and kind of gets them habituated to visiting. And that way we can sort of, between that and the trail camera, keep track of if there's still rats in the area. So we've got about, I think, 500 or so of those set up across our whole project area, which it works really well.
Because obviously sometimes you can get neophobic reactions where they don't go in the box, but they'll sit on it.
Yeah, totally. And that's where the trail cameras are great, because they'll tell you like, oh, actually it's comfortable sitting on it, it's just not wanting to go inside. And then we might be able to rejig the orientation or the setup slightly so that they will go inside. But it's really fascinating when it gets that level of sort of understanding their behavior and trying to get them to interact. We've also used things like chew cards. I don't know if they're a thing over there, but we use
chew cards.
Core flute plastic, which is like the things that what are they called, like for sale signs and that sort of thing are often made from. And so you've got the sheets of plastic with the gaps running down the middle, and we'll fill little pieces of core flute plastic with peanut butter down one side and nail them to a tree or out in the environment. And animals will come along and chew them and leave their tooth impressions on the card. And from the teeth marks, we can tell what species has been in the area. So like a rat chew mark will look different to a mouse or a hedgehog or something else. And they tend to really go for them, which is cool. So they're really cheap and they're easy to kind of use over a wide area. And so we use lots of those. And the rats often really queue into them because of the peanut butter. They get really hooked on them. And so once we know that they're conditioned to those, we can then use similar materials maybe to make a trap box. And, they'll be attracted to it and they'll be comfortable interacting with it because they associate it with food. So, it's also sort of using using what you can and what you know about that animal and what it will go for. And that's been really successful as well.
Okay, I was about to say we haven't got them, but Jackie's corrected. She said, yes, chew cards, we have them for good nature traps. So
yeah, cool.
Thank you for the save, Jackie. I was about to say, no, we haven't got them. Oh, there we go. So we have got them. Send me a link to them, Jackie, because I've probably seen them, but I don't know what they are. That's probably it. There we go.
Yeah,
Thank you for the save there. Oh, that sounds really good. That does. Right. Now you're gonna have to forgive me because I'm not very good at saying these names here.
That's fine.
Kaka, is it anti booming in the city? What?
Yeah, Kaka and Tui.
That's it. Booming in the city. What's the next species you expect to see spilling over into people's gardens?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd say there's lots of contenders here. That Finch Sanctuary Zealandia, they've introduced a lot of species. And one of them that got introduced a few years ago, I think it was 2019, they introduced one called Titiponamu or rifleman. And they're our smallest bird. I think they're about the size of a golf ball. They're like really tiny and round and very cute. But they've just been brought back to Wellington. And I think hopefully they're going to start spreading out across the city, which would be really cool. There's also a project here called Capital Kiwi, and they've recently released kiwi into the sort of southwestern hills of Wellington, and already they've started spreading out. Yeah, exactly. And so they've started spreading out across the city, and people are sort of hearing them at night and starting to see them when they're out on bushwalks and things. So that's really exciting. So hopefully it won't be too long before people have got, kiwi is just commonplace in their backyard.
That would be nice. I bet it's a good place for with all these species potentially coming back and coming back. I bet it's a nice place for photographers to get their cameras out then. All these nice birds making their return.
Yeah. A lot of wildlife photographers here. It was something I used to love doing as well, because you don't have to drive for 3 hours and go somewhere remote to try and see these species here. They're just sort of, you can walk down the main street in the CBD in Wellington City, and there'll be kaka sort of jumping around and playing on the trees or on people's cars or whatever. They're just kind of commonplace, which is pretty amazing when out in the wilderness you might be lucky to see one. So it's kind of a weird contradiction, which is cool.
No, that's nice. That is, because in cities you don't think of birds, do you? No, big smoke like in London. I can't think what it's called, but London's actually got a wild bird that's green. Looks, I don't know what it's called. Can't remember what it's called, but it's a real. They get in people's lofts, and I don't live in London. I live in the countryside. I live well deep in rural Rutland. I do. Nice. But there is a bird I see a lot in pictures, and pest controllers say, they're a nightmare because they can get into the houses. I can't think what they're called, but when I find out, I'll drop you an email and tell you what they were.
Cool. I'll have to look it up.
I can't think what it's called, but there's loads of them, loads and loads of them, and they're just in the parks and stuff. You'd think they're being like a bird place, but no, they're wild.
Yeah, true.
I guess
that's one of the trade-offs with the wildlife coming back. Is it'll be a good problem to have, I think, but we've already got things like the kaka, the bush parrot, trying to nest in people's roof spaces and that sort of thing. So it'll be one of these things that, as the numbers increase, we've kind of got to work out how to live alongside them again, which is a good problem to have, I think. But be the next chapter, I think.
It'd be people proofing their houses up so they can't get in, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Because it won't hurt them. That won't hurt them. It won't.
No, exactly. And they'll be, I think they naturally will nest in tree cavities and that sort of thing, which there's plenty of. So, or you can build nest box type things for them and put them out. So it'll be just making sure they've got enough of those natural places they can nest. Yeah.
That's good then, that is. Right. Have you got many cities around the world are watching Wellington? What is one piece of advice you could give to, say, London, New York or Sydney, if they wanted to follow your lead, if they wanted to be brave?
I I'd say, wow, I think we've had people tell us that it's impossible, or say, "Oh, there's no way you're going to do that. You can't get rid of rats." But I think just these days, I think conservation projects are getting a lot more ambitious and taking on things that are far more complex or challenging. But it's sort of proving actually these things are possible and they can be done. And if you've got the vision and you've got the community support behind you and you've got the funding and the resource, there's kind of nothing to say what can't be done these days. So I think just if you've got the community support, go for it. And it's kind of amazing these days what can be achieved.
It can be. I just think sometimes that people, like, in order to get, like, say in England, the public support to that degree, it's like you'd have to get the plague back or something for them to hate. There's people that love rats. And you think that to get them to hate them, you'd have to get. I never want the plague back, obviously, but you think, what? So would it take for these people to realise that their disease, they could, you got the hantavirus that was obviously around the world recently, and all that kind of thing. There are, but yes, but you are to have the funding and that's a great bit of advice. There's right. Well done, Jackie. It's this bird.
Cockatoo. Yes.
Cockatoos. They're green.
True.
Yeah, they're the birds that are all over London. They are.
Yikes.
My mate sent me a video of them actually breaking into a house. But
wow.
I don't mean breaking in that way, but the little plastic vents. They actually filmed it, actually pecking it, and it got in. It broke it off and got in the house.
Wow!
Into loft space. That was like crazy. That is.
Yikes! So they're going for are they going for food and somewhere to shelter and nest and that sort of thing?
I presume so. I don't know. He just sent me this video. He did. Look at this. He said, "I've never seen this before." He says actually, exactly. It weren't a job he was doing. You've seen it. Started filming it. I've never seen that before.
It's pretty bold.
It is. But no, some great advice there is for other cities if they wanted to try it. But obviously, you've got to get a plan in place and have funding, and you've got to get
definitely the
backers,
preparation. Yeah, preparation's a huge part of it. I think for us, it was definitely allowing more time than you think for the preparation. So, really heavily weighting the community engagement and the consultation. And I think there was 3 of us full time that spent 4 months going door to door and talking to residents and getting permissions to access properties and that sort of thing. So just making sure all that prep work's done and you know about your target species and the habitats where they want to live, and you've sort of tested your methods and all of that. It's takes longer than you often expect to do all that prep, but it's definitely worth it if you do, because then once you hit the ground you can be out of people's hair a lot quicker and just get through an area much faster.
It's literally what you should do in normal pest control. Have a plan, integrated pest management. You should literally have a plan from start to finish.
Yeah, it's all the same principles, eh?
It is the basic principles. Obviously, this is on a much bigger scale. It's not just one house; it's the entire city.
Just intensive, yep.
Yeah, it definitely is. Comments. Sorry, she's got it wrong. It wasn't a cockatoo at all.
Oh, okay.
It was a
ringneck parakeet.
That's a parakeet. That's it. That sounds right.
I have heard of them. I think people have them as pets here, but as far as I know, they're not wild. But yeah,
they're wild. They're wild in London. I don't live there, but I prefer the rural. I'm a country person.
Yeah, nice.
Out in the wild countryside, I am. So, yeah. So, what within your role? What does your typical day look like when you what you do within your job?
So my role, my role is called a eradication technical officer now. So I started off with the project doing the community engagement stuff, so talking to residents, and then doing outreach, and then it kind of evolved to be a field-based job where I was out there doing the baiting and the trapping, and then our team kind of expanded, and then nowadays I'm in an office-based job, so I'm back at our depot and doing things like data analysis and mapping and planning for the teams and sort of technical advising and that sort of thing. So there's 3 of us that have the same role, and we cover that sort of thing. And then most of our team is our field team who are out and doing the actual work on the ground, which is the bulk of it, really. But yeah, these days I'm stuck in the office, but it's good because it's been challenging, and we're sort of doing, we'll do trials, or we'll assess our methodology and try and see if it's working or not working and what we need to change, and just constantly sort of reflecting and trying to innovate and make the method better and faster and more efficient. So
that's good. Yeah. That is. You're currently in the winter, aren't you?
Yes. Middle of winter, whereas you guys have had heat waves and stuff over there, eh?
It's probably still not as hot as you get. We moan about cold. We moan if it's hot. We shouldn't moan really when it gets hot. I've got the first, where I live, never had a hose pipe ban before. First hose pipe ban in apparently 12 years where I live.
Wow.
Because it's that dry as the rain-wise. Rainwater, hasn't been raining a lot, and they're asking people not to do it, and they're going to say that if you do it, you'll get £1,000 fine. I mean, I don't know how they know. I think they're relying on people to grass people up. I doubt it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys get some rain soon.
But yeah, it's it ain't as bad as what I've seen in you get a lot of when it gets really hot, you get fires, don't you? Do you get any fires in New Zealand because of the heat?
Yeah, we do. I think Wellington, I guess, because we're sort of surrounded by ocean and Cook Strait. It's reasonably temperate here, but we do occasionally get scrub fires in the summer when it gets really dry. But Wellington, we're not too bad. But yeah, there are places elsewhere in the country, particularly
not nice to that. Sorry, I was saying. I mean, Wellington, no, you don't really get in it.
Yeah.
No,
we're fairly lucky. It doesn't get too extreme here. We do get, things like water restrictions in summer, but and we've had our fair share of storms the last few weeks. But yeah, nothing really to complain about. Nothing too crazy.
No. Problem is, our houses, they're all made out of brick and mortar, obviously. But so the way they're made is they're made to hold heat. So in the summer, when you think, just release the air, they don't. They keep heat, and we haven't all got aircon. That's the thing.
Yeah. I think we're the opposite here. They're not that well built to hold the heat, unfortunately. But I think because of the earthquake risk that we've got in Wellington, there's a lot less of building with brick and that sort of thing. It tends to be more timber framing and stuff, which
that's probably it.
Good and safe, but probably not quite as warm as you want it in winter.
Do you get termites there?
Termites? No. Don't think we
just
do.
Wondered, sorry. Just because obviously you mentioned you got wooden frame buildings, houses.
Yeah, we get like borer beetles and things, but not termites. Yeah.
Oh, we get them. Yeah, it's not as obviously. It's a bit more damaging to. It'd be your entire house, wouldn't it? It would.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah.
It's just a loft space.
Quite an issue.
Usually here.
Oh, right. Okay.
But now it's been good to have you on. Thanks for coming on and giving up your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Nice of you. You look very awake though for this early.
I got up nice and early, so I would be awake by the time we kicked off. But I'm used to sort of being up at this time, so we usually start pretty early.
But that's nice of you to come on, and thanks for coming on. Is there anyone you'd want to see on this podcast? You probably don't watch this podcast, but anyone you think it would be good to offer some?
Good question. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cool projects we've overlapped with, at least around New Zealand, if not internationally, that are doing some really cool things, and learning about how to improve our methods for controlling these species. I could definitely send through some contacts for other projects. It's a really cool network in this predator free stuff over here. We've also got our website, Predator Free Wellington. If you Google it, I'm sure it would come up. But there's lots of cool resources and things you can access on there. A lot of information. But yeah, I have a think. Might be able to send you through some recommendations.
It's all different ideas, and on the scale you do it at, it's it's all learning. Jackie's enjoyed it.
But, awesome.
But
thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. A lot of people listen to the podcast after, because you've got to appreciate it is a Tuesday night.
Yep.
And most people are, obviously it's live. Most people watch live, or Spotify is the biggest platform, actually, believe it or not. It does very well. It does.
Yeah, cool.
One day it might be YouTube, but you never know. but we're live on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. But
awesome.
But yes.
All the platforms.
Yeah, nearly all the main ones anyway. But I do put clips up as well. Are you okay with that on different platforms from the podcast to advertise it?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's good then. So thanks, Emma, for coming on. But let us know any ideas you've got of people that might be interested.
Yeah, we'll do.
People do find that this kind of, listening to people from different parts of the world, because it's all learning different methods and how people do things. So
so much similarity to what we do, so much overlap.
There is definitely.
We've got a couple of projects in the UK that we've had comms back and forth with, doing very similar work. So yeah,
nice. It's coming here. No, I'm joking. You never know.
You never know.
You never know. But so thanks, Emma, for coming on. It was kind of you to give up your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me, and happy for people to get in touch if they've got questions or they want to know
I will
more.
drop your links in and stuff
great.
in the description. I will.
Awesome.
Do you want me to drop your email in the description or not?
We've got I think is it hello@Predator Free Wellington. I'll send it through to you, and we can definitely.
I'm not going to put your email. I've got your email.
People with questions.
You're not finding that out,
cool. People. We'll get you an email contact that people can get in touch.
All right, and Emma, thank you, and I'll let you get on with your work day. I will.
Awesome, thanks, Shaun. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, and you. Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.